Also here exclusively tonight, President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, good to see you. You were laughing throughout parts of his answer.
That can't be a serious candidate for president.
Why?
It's pathetic.
Well, which part?
The whole thing. First of all, he's obviously going through a serious identity crisis, so I excuse him.
He tweeted about how he feels guilty that he's a white male.
Well, he's even more confused about the case. I mean, the idea that the Attorney General of the United States can turn over information to them and not be in violation of the law is just a fiction that they're all presenting to the American people. They're just lying to the American people. The Attorney General has turned over 98% of the obstruction report, if not 99%. Mm-hmm. Even Mueller said today that their report has been largely or very largely seen. He knows there's nothing. I've read the report. You've read the report. The redactions are like this. Mm-hmm. Maybe a third of them are footnotes.
But they say there's underlying evidence that might give us a bigger window into...
First, he's talking about reading the whole report. If he's read the report, he's read the whole report. The redacted versions are 1% of the report, maybe 0.5%, because half of that percent are footnotes. Second, Mueller today just said what the report said. To make this into, oh my God, now we have not a single new fact, no smoking gun, mm-hmm. Not even a single new nuance. I mean, it's the same old story. End result for a prosecutor, which obviously he was not very good at, is number one, mm-hmm. No collusion. Well, immediately what that says to you is we just had 2.5 years of 2 investigations that were entirely unfair, a waste of taxpayer money, and certainly justifies a man in defending himself.
Well, let me get to that, and then we'll get to obstruction. On collusion conspiracy, Mueller said today he could not establish a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians beyond a reasonable doubt. Doesn't that leave open, if not a conspiracy, that there was contact collusion?
No, he actually said something stronger than that. He said there's insignificant evidence. There's not significant
Insufficient.
Evidence. Insufficient evidence. Insufficient evidence means you can't meet the burden for an indictment. The burden for an indictment is probable cause. It's nothing. It's not reasonable doubt. So he can't get to the level of even making a charge. You know what that means every place else in America? Under American law, unless you want to change it, it means you're not guilty. All prosecutors ever do is determine, is there enough evidence to charge something? I never heard of exonerating someone. I never heard of it. Never heard that word for a prosecutor.
Because now it's been flipped around.
Well, yeah, that's 2,000 years. That's 2,000 years of fairness to go back to the Romans, the English, the Americans. This guy who wants to be president of the United States wants to flip all that. And what he wants to do is presume the president guilty. He doesn't presume the president guilty. He's been saying the president's guilty for 2 or 3 years. What a phony. So now, what do they want him there for? They want him there for a show. They want him there for being on, daytime television, trying to become stars. He's hoping that he'll be I'm the only Democrat that's going to get a chance to maybe I can win the primary. Shoot, I mean,
well, he said
I don't know how to say to him, you ain't winning no primary, pal. You just don't have enough.
He says Democrats though are on the road to impeachment. You've been in politics a long time. Does this boomerang on the Democrats?
Well, tell me what new fact was revealed today.
I asked him, he didn't name anything.
Of course he didn't name anything. He couldn't even make one up. Usually he makes things up, but he must be still swooning from that identity crisis. So the reality is there was no new fact. There was no tape. There was no piece of evidence. There was no witness. Every witness has walked out on them. Their whole collusion investigation is probably going to become an investigation against them, mm-hmm. because that collusion thing was manufactured. I know that. I spent the last 6 months investigating that. I think it's going to boomerang on them.
So we'll see what you get on that. But let's get to obstruction, because what Democrats are saying is that Bob Mueller, and he went on camera, this is not us speculating, he went on camera and suggested, at least, as you know, that but for this Department of Justice policy, he might have indicted the president.
He said 2 things, including in the report, separately. And they're trying to use that. He said, number one, I cannot reach a conclusion that the president committed obstruction of justice, but I can't exonerate him. The minute he says I cannot reach a conclusion that he obstructed justice, it means there's no case. End of case, case over. You don't get to say the second one, but I can't exonerate him. We don't want you to exonerate. You're not supposed to exonerate him. That shouldn't even be in your head. Mr. Weissman put that in your head because they like to distort the American Constitution. And this guy, Sewell, is not smart enough to understand the difference between the two, or doesn't care. So second, so he said on an analysis of the evidence, he gave us his opinion, which is all he can give us. The second thing he said was, there's a Justice Department policy. Mm-hmm. Well, there was a Justice Department policy about collusion also.
So was this a waste of 2 years? if he knew up front he couldn't indict him.
If you take that analysis, that he can't indict, and he can't give an opinion, then the reality is we just wasted 2 years.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
But he did give an opinion. And his opinion is no collusion, no obstruction, pal. You can twist it all the way you want, and they're going to keep doing it, but it's going to backfire on you. But now we should be paying more attention to how much corruption was involved in the original charge.
We appreciate you coming in.
It's going to go pretty darn high.
Thanks, Rudy Giuliani. Just turned 75. Happy birthday. Still ahead. Breaking